Every airplane on this list has a reputation. The dealership is happy to repeat. Safe, proven, a reputation passed through the community until it calcified into fact. Some of these aircraft have been in continuous production since your grandfather was logging his first solo. The Cessna 172 is the baseline. It costs $130,000 new, burns 9 gallons an hour, and bores every flight instructor in the country into competence. Its fatal accident rate is 0.45 per 100,000 flight hours. Every airplane on this list is supposed to beat that number. The National Transportation Safety Board file says otherwise. I have been inside enough logbooks and accident reports to know that the gap between a manufacturer's brochure and a probable cause statement is where pilots go to die. These are 10 aircraft with airtight reputations and accident records the industry has spent decades quietly explaining away. Number 1 has 136 documented in-flight structural failures in the federal record. A manufacturer spent 30 years insisting those were pilot errors, and the airworthiness directive came a generation too late. We count down from the quirky to the institutional. You are about to see the airplane you have been told is safe, then the file your dealer never pulled. Number 10. The easiest plane to get into. Light sport aircraft. The Sport Pilot Certificate was aviation's best idea in decades. Skip the third-class medical, use your driver's license, get into a light, simple airplane, and fly again. The Federal Aviation Administration designed this category to bring people back to aviation without the full weight of Part 23 certification overhead. That simplicity carries a price, one that did not make the marketing materials. A peer-reviewed study published in Aerospace Medicine compared light sport aircraft and special light sport aircraft accident rates directly to certified general aviation aircraft. The fatal accident rate for light sport aircraft is 5.2 per 100,000 flight hours. The rate for standard certified general aviation aircraft is 2.6 per 100,000 flight hours. You are flying a category with exactly twice the fatal accident rate of a standard certified airplane. The Federal Aviation Administration and the National Transportation Safety Board documented a finding the industry found inconvenient. Experienced pilots stepping down from Bonanzas and Moonies have worse fatal accident records in light sport aircraft than brand new student pilots starting from scratch. The total accident rate for light sport aircraft runs at 29.8 per 100,000 flight hours versus 12.7 per 100,000 flight hours for certified aircraft. Those numbers do not come from a trade association, they come from a federal safety database. The easiest entry point, the worst fatality math in the fleet. Number 9. The Flight School Fighter Plane, the Grumman AA-1 Yankee. In 1969, the AA-1 was the most exciting two-seat aircraft in production. Bonded aluminum skin, canopy cockpit, quick roll response, and a silhouette that looked like it belonged at a naval air station rather than a flight school ramp. Flight schools loved the idea of putting students in something that felt like real aviation. The FAA launched a special investigation into the AA-1 before the production run was finished. The AA-1's wing design induced drag rapidly at low airspeeds. The stall is abrupt and the wing drops without warning. In a turn at low altitude, the airplane gets behind the power curve faster than almost anything else in its class. The FAA issued an airworthiness directive prohibiting spins in all AA-1 series aircraft after the factory's own spin test prototype was destroyed during development. The production airplane went to flight schools anyway. Aviation Consumers Accident Study from 1976 through 1984 found an AA-1 total accident rate of 14.6 per 100,000 hours and a fatal rate of 3.2. The Cessna 150 and 152 ran a total rate of 10.0 and a fatal rate of 1.1 across the same period. 22% of AA-1 crashes were fatal. For the 152, it was 11%. Through 1973, the AA-1's spin fatality rate was 5 times higher than any other trainer in production. They sold a fighter. The NTSB got the paperwork. Number 8. the trainer built to replace the 152, the Piper PA-38 Tomahawk. In 1978, Piper designed the Tomahawk from the ground up, clean lines, side-by-side seating, a T-tail chosen for unobstructed forward visibility. The T-tail carries a specific aerodynamic consequence the brochure omitted. At high angles of attack, the Tomahawk enters a deep stall. The nose pitches up past the normal stall angle. The horizontal stabilizer, now sitting in the turbulent wake of the wing, loses effectiveness entirely. The elevator cannot generate enough force to break the nose back down. The aircraft descends in a stable, nose-high attitude with no recovery available through conventional inputs. From a normal traffic pattern altitude, there is no altitude remaining to solve this problem. Piper discontinued the Tomahawk in 1982 after a 4-year production run and a mounting accident record. The FAA now uses it in training syllabi as a lesson in T-tail hazards, not a recommended aircraft. Designed for students, retired by the accident record. Number 7. The bigger, better Cessna. The Cessna 210 Centurion. The 210 is the natural step up from the 182, 6 seats, retractable gear, a turbocharged Continental, and the name Cessna on the nose. The retractable gear is a big part of the appeal. Pilots who learned on 172s spend entire careers working toward one. It is a Cessna. Cessnas are safe. That logic runs through flight training like a current. The Centurion's landing gear system is not the gear system on your 172. It uses an electro-hydraulic retractable landing gear with a level of mechanical complexity that aviation consumer specifically warns against deferring maintenance on. The NTSB has linked multiple 210 and 210B accidents since 2015 to fatigue cracking in hydraulic landing gear. Actuators. The cause is pitting corrosion in the aluminum alloy actuator body, a failure mode standard inspections cannot reliably detect. The FAA issued an emergency airworthiness directive. In May 2012, grounding 3,665 Centurions with over 10,000 flight hours for immediate wing spar inspection. In May 2019, a T210M lost its right wing in flight over Australia. The ATSB traced the cause to a fatigue crack in the wing spar carry-through that an extended inspection interval had missed. Independent analysis of NTSB records from 1998 through 2015 found that 12.5% of all Cessna 210 accidents involved mechanical landing gear failure. The Bonanza 36, another retractable single with a comparable fleet size, posted a mechanical gear failure rate of 1.3% for the same period. The Bonanza comparison is striking. The 210's fatal accident rate is 1.37 per 100,000 hours. The Cessna 182, the airplane buyers step up from, runs 0.82. It is still a Cessna. The gear is not. Number 6. The poor man's Bonanza. The Piper Comanche PA-24. The Comanche arrived in the mid-1950s as the affordable alternative to the Bonanza, Piper's first all-metal retractable, fast for its displacement, and significantly cheaper. Pilots who wanted the experience and could not stretch the budget bought a Comanche, and the community called it a compliment. The PA-24 nose gear drag link bolt has a documented history of fatigue failure. Piper's own service bulletin. 1,156 mandates replacement at 500-hour intervals specifically because of that history. The fuel system uses bladder tanks that collapse with age. When a fuel bladder collapses, it constricts fuel flow, not enough to trigger an immediate failure indication, but enough to starve the engine during climb or cruise. A 2022 Comanche fatal accident report cited collapsed fuel bladders as the cause of engine failure on a route the pilot had flown dozens of times before. The airplane gave no warning. 4,857 PA-24 Comanches were produced, and 2,759 remain on the FAA registry today, many with aging bladders and nose gear systems that have not seen service bulletin compliance in years. The budget Bonanza has budget maintenance consequences. Number 5. The airplane that beats the weather. The Piper P, A46, Malibu, and Mirage. The Malibu is the prestige piston single. It has a pressurized cabin, service to flight level 200, and 6 seats above the weather that grounds everyone else at your airport. It is what pilots buy when they believe they have arrived. Losing the engine in the Malibu at altitude does not present an engine problem first. It presents a pressurization problem. The cabin depressurizes instantly. At flight level 200, a pilot has seconds of useful consciousness without supplemental oxygen before hypoxic incapacitation begins. Standard engine-out procedures require cognitive load the pilot no longer has. Between May 1989 and March 1991, the PA-46 suffered 7 fatal accidents. The NTSB launched a special investigation. In March 1991, the FAA issued an airworthiness directive prohibiting Malibu operations in instrument meteorological conditions on an airplane marketed for that capability. The Aviation Safety Network database records 225 PA-46 accidents through January 2019, with 106 hull losses and 219 fatalities. The hull loss rate for PA-46 airframes produced from 2002 through 2017 is 9%. The weather-beating airplane. The weather wins anyway. Number 4. 2 engines, 1 trap. The Beechcraft Baron. The Baron is the twin-engine argument made physical. It has 2 Continental IO 470 engines, retractable gear, and a marketing premise that has been the same since 1961. If one engine fails, the other gets you home. That redundancy is conditional on airspeed. Below VMC, which is the minimum directional control speed when one engine is inoperative, the live engine produces more thrust than the dead engine side can counteract. The aircraft yaws. At low airspeed, the rudder cannot correct it. The Baron can roll, and below 500 feet, the sequence from exceeding VMC to hitting terrain takes only seconds. The NTSB study between 1972 and 1976 found that engine failure crashes in piston twins were 4 times more likely to be fatal than identical failures in single-engine aircraft. Multiple wrongful death filings from Baron crashes document a consistent pattern: engine failure at rotation, loss of directional control, fuel system failure, or an unlatched cabin door at low altitude. The Baron also has documented flat spin behavior from which recovery is all but impossible. 2 engines, 1 VMC, no recovery window below the critical altitude. Number 3. The airplane with the parachute and the fatal rate that beats the average. The Cirrus SR22. The SR22 is the answer aviation gave to every criticism general aviation ever received. Composite construction, glass cockpit, and the Cirrus airframe parachute system. A ballistic deployment that lowers the entire aircraft to the ground, intact in an emergency. By 2025, the parachute had saved over 100 lives. At $700,000 new. It is the airplane wealthy buyers choose when they want to tell their families they fly the safe one. The parachute saves you after the decision fails. It cannot reverse the decision. The SR22 attracts the same demographic the Bonanza established decades earlier, financially successful, instrument-rated, or working toward it, with significantly more aircraft than training hours. The airplane's performance numbers encourage pilots to venture into weather and airspace that their actual capability does not support. Aviation Consumer's 2011 review documented the SR22 fatal accident rate at 1.6 per 100,000 flight hours. The US general aviation average at the time was 1.2. Between 2001 and May 2014, the SR22 was involved in 147 crashes across the United States, and 122 people died in those accidents. Crashes like these are not anonymous statistics. The Cessna 172 posts a fatal accident rate of 0.45 per 100,000 hours. You pay $700,000 for the SR22 and get a fatal rate 3.5 times worse than a plane at a third the price. The safest marketing in general aviation. The NTSB has the file. Number 2. The fixed airplane, the Beechcraft Bonanza, A-36. When Beechcraft halted V-tail production in 1982, the community accepted the Model 36 as the corrected aircraft. The structural problem had been addressed. The airplane was sound. The A-36 retains the Bonanza's narrow center of gravity envelope, and it demands precise weight and balance in every loading configuration. The IO-550 is among the most complex power plants in the certified general aviation fleet. Landings with the gear up persist as a recurring Bonanza pattern. The accident study by AOPA flagged the non-standard gear switch placement on early models as a contributing factor. Pilots confused it with the flap selector. In 1983, the American Bonanza Society created the Beechcraft Pilot Proficiency Program specifically in response to the accident pattern. Members who complete it have dramatically better accident records than the general Bonanza fleet, which tells you precisely where the problem lives. The fixed airplane. The pilot problem remained. Number 1. 136 structural failures. An airworthiness directive a generation too late. The Beechcraft Bonanza V-35. The Bonanza prototype flew on December 22, 1945. It entered production in 1947, and it never stopped. More than 18,000 Bonanzas of all variants have been built, making it the longest continuous production run of any general aviation aircraft in history. The V-tail design, two ruddervators in a distinctive forked configuration, became the most recognizable silhouette in light aviation. Pilots described it the same way for 50 years. Fast, responsive, the best handling single-engine aircraft ever to leave Wichita. Between 1962 and 2007, the NTSB accident record documents 136 in-flight structural failures in V-tail Bonanza aircraft. Over the same 45 years, conventional tail Bonanzas flying the same missions accumulated 11 structural failures. 3 V-tail in-flight structural failures per year, every year for 45 years. The mechanical cause is documented in engineering records. Starting with the C-35 model, Beechcraft extended the stabilizer's leading edge to address tail yaw while leaving the front spar in its original position. Under high angle of attack conditions and high control surface deflections, torsion loads twist the stabilizer past its structural threshold. The ruddervators flutter. The tail departs the aircraft. In the late 1980s, the FAA and Department of Transportation conducted wind tunnel and flight tests. They proved the V-tail did not meet its own type certification standards under certain conditions. An airworthiness directive was issued requiring stabilizer reinforcement. Production stopped in 1982, 35 years after the first aircraft left Wichita. Beechcraft attributed the failures to pilot error for every one of those 35 years. In 1984, the president of the American Bonanza Society lost a close friend in a V-tail structural failure. He reversed the organization's decades-long defense of Beechcraft and requested a formal FAA investigation. The investigation confirmed what engineers had been documenting for years: the most beloved airplane in general aviation history. The file does not care. 10 aircraft, 10 reputations. The industry built and the community repeated until the reputation replaced the record. The pattern across this list is the same pattern in every logbook that ends in a federal investigation. The aircraft was marketed to a buyer who could afford the purchase price, but not the training hours it demanded. The performance numbers invited operations, the certification record did not support. The failure mode was known, documented, and explained away until an airworthiness directive or a discontinued production line made the explanation unnecessary. The Cessna 172 will bore you to competence and get you home. Your logbook has an airplane in it that you love. The question is whether you know its NTSB file better than you know its reputation. Pull the record before the next flight. Tell me your type in the comments. Are you flying it because of the record or despite it?